The wind howls across a frozen plain. Snow drifts like smoke between the trees, and the ground beneath your boots feels as hard as stone. The temperature has dropped below freezing. Your fire burns low, and suddenly, nature calls. There's no bathroom, no plumbing, and no luxury of comfort. For most modern people, this is the moment of panic. But for the Native American tribes who faced these winters year after year, this was simply another part of survival, one they mastered with astonishing intelligence and respect for the land. Imagine waking up before dawn, stepping out into the biting cold, and still maintaining hygiene, privacy, and dignity, without contaminating the earth or your camp. How? That's where their brilliance begins to show. They didn't rely on random holes in the snow. Every part of their outdoor sanitation had strategy, from wind direction and terrain slope, to the natural insulators they used to keep waste from freezing into unmanageable ice. They built systems, not makeshift fixes. They turned necessity into a survival craft. And here's the truth most people never realize. In the middle of a brutal storm, when temperatures could kill in minutes, the smallest detail could mean life or death. Waste left too close could spread illness. Poor positioning could invite predators or foul the air supply. Yet the Native Americans found balance, a rhythm between nature and need. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe, because every day we uncover another story of Native American ingenuity, the real survival wisdom the modern world has forgotten. Now, as we journey deeper, you'll discover how these winter bathroom systems worked, how snow, ash, and even animal byproducts became essential sanitation tools. You'll see how a people without plumbing built a code of hygiene stronger than most modern campers ever will. This isn't just history, it's survival knowledge that still works. Welcome to Winter's Call, where nature tests the unprepared, but honors those who understand her rules. The northern winds of January didn't forgive mistakes. On the Great Plains and in the northern forests, temperatures could drop so low that exposed skin froze in seconds. For most people today, surviving without plumbing seems impossible. Yet Native American communities not only endured, they built entire systems to manage the body's most basic needs with precision and respect for nature. When the deep cold arrived, venturing far from camp wasn't always safe. Blizzards could erase landmarks within minutes, and even the short walk to a designated latrine could turn deadly. That's why tribes adapted, creating smart, localized solutions that worked even during the fiercest storms. Every camp had rules: where waste went, how it was covered, and how it was kept separate from water sources. Nothing was left to chance. Unlike the careless approach of modern campers, Native people saw sanitation as part of spiritual and environmental harmony. A teepee, for example, was sacred, a living space that symbolized order and balance. Waste inside it was never tolerated unless emergency demanded it. Even then, methods existed to manage it safely and cleanly. They used snow, ashes, or dry grasses to absorb and neutralize odor, and later removed or burned it when weather allowed. The cold, in fact, became their ally. Frozen waste was easier to contain, move, and dispose of without contamination. By working with the environment instead of against it, they maintained hygiene under conditions that would break most modern survivalists. When most people picture ancient bathrooms, they imagine crude holes in the ground. But for Native Americans, sanitation in winter was far more strategic and adaptable. Their approach wasn't about digging and hoping for the best. It was about reading the land, studying wind direction, elevation, snow depth, and proximity to water before deciding where nature's call would be answered. Each winter camp had a designated latrine area, placed downwind from the teepee circle, usually on a gentle slope. This prevented odor from drifting toward living spaces and ensured that melted snow and runoff didn't carry waste back into camp when spring arrived. Some tribes even used natural barriers, snowdrifts, tree clusters, or rock outcrops to create privacy and wind protection. The result was a system both practical and respectful, blending seamlessly with the environment. In emergencies, when the weather was too fierce to venture outside, they improvised indoor methods. A small hide-lined container, bark baskets, or pit covered with grass and ashes became a temporary solution. Clean, quick, and easy to remove when conditions improved. These were not random inventions, but the result of centuries of adaptation. Snow itself was a tool, a natural cleaner and insulator. Waste could be buried in compacted snow layers, freezing instantly and locking away odor. Ashes from the central fire, when sprinkled over, acted as both deodorizer and disinfectant. This wasn't just survival, it was engineering through observation. Every tribe developed variations suited to their environment, whether the dense forests of the Northeast or the open plains of the Dakotas. In freezing weather, even waste behaves differently. It hardens, freezes, and becomes less of a biological threat. But Native Americans didn't rely on luck. They used the laws of nature to their advantage. Waste management in extreme cold wasn't an afterthought. It was an art form, built on deep ecological awareness. When the ground was frozen solid and digging a latrine was impossible, tribes turned to controlled containment. They created shallow pits lined with layers of dry grass, pine needles, or moss, which absorbed moisture and kept waste from sticking to the frozen earth. Once used, these areas were covered with more snow, packed tightly, and then sealed with a layer of ash or sand to neutralize odor and bacteria. In time, the cold itself became the disinfectant. Ash played a vital role. It acted like natural lime, preventing decay while killing surface pathogens. Combined with snow and cold, it created a simple, yet remarkably effective waste system that left no lasting impact on the environment. Nothing contaminated nearby food, water, or firewood, even in tight winter camps. Animal dung, often mistaken for mere fuel, served another surprising purpose. Dried bison or horse chips were sometimes used to insulate outdoor latrine areas, forming natural walls that shielded from wind and added extra heat retention when burned nearby. Even the body's rhythm adapted. In the cold, metabolism slowed, reducing the frequency of waste, something native peoples understood intuitively, shaping their routines around it. Everything about their winter sanitation was intentional, a blend of biology, geography, and resource use that few modern campers could replicate. To Native American tribes, cleanliness wasn't only a matter of hygiene, it was a matter of spirit. Every act that touched the land, even waste disposal, carried moral weight. The earth was not a dumping ground, it was a living being, the mother. And every tribe had its own code to ensure her purity was never violated. In many nations, especially those of the plains and woodlands, cleanliness was directly tied to balance and respect. Waste inside the teepee was only acceptable during true emergencies, such as whiteout storms or dangerous night conditions. When such situations arose, there were clear rules. Waste had to be contained, covered, and removed with reverence as soon as the weather cleared. The area where it was placed was never left unacknowledged, often sprinkled with ashes, snow, or even a whispered word of thanks to restore harmony. Men and women each had privacy protocols. Women especially observed cycles of purification that were deeply respected, often stepping slightly away from camp to maintain spiritual and physical cleanliness. Even these private acts were guided by principles of modesty and reverence, not shame. The teepee itself symbolized the sacred order of life, its fire at the center representing spirit, its circular form mirroring the Earth's continuity. To pollute it with waste would mean disturbing that balance. In essence, sanitation was spiritual engineering. What others might see as simple survival rules were actually expressions of a worldview. that to live clean was to live in respect. This belief system didn't just preserve health, it preserved harmony. In the frozen wilderness, nature wasn't the enemy, it was the engineer. Native Americans didn't fight against the wind or the snow. They learned how to work with them, turning both into tools for survival and sanitation. When temperatures plummeted, they observed how air flowed, how snow packed, and how frost insulated. From that knowledge came a system so clever that even modern survivalists study it today. Wind direction was the first rule. Waste areas were always placed downwind from camp, not just for comfort, but for health. This prevented odors and bacteria from drifting toward living or cooking spaces. In open plains, tribes positioned latrine spots behind small hills, snowbanks, or brush piles, where gusts could carry away smell, while snowdrifts naturally sealed the area after use. The land became its own containment system. Snow itself was the perfect ally. It was not only abundant, but clean and sterile when freshly fallen. A compacted snow trench could be dug in minutes, its icy walls holding shape better than soil in winter. Once covered, the snow froze over, locking everything in place and preventing contamination. The combination of wind and freeze acted as a natural sanitation mechanism, constantly refreshing the environment. Even the camp's circular layout played a role. Fire smoke and prevailing wind patterns were studied carefully to keep air flowing outward, never inward. It was a mobile, self-purifying ecosystem. To the untrained eye, it might have looked like coincidence. But to Native Americans, it was science, learned through generations of observation. Every breeze, every drift, every sound of cracking ice was a signal from the land itself, telling them how to survive cleanly. The key to survival in the wild isn't fighting the environment, it's learning how to let it help you. Native Americans knew this better than anyone. When winter made water scarce and sanitation risky, they turned to three of nature's simplest elements: ash, ice, and earth, transforming them into powerful natural disinfectants that kept camps healthy even in the dead of winter. Ash, taken directly from the teepee's central fire, was more than waste. It was their all-purpose cleaning agent. Rich in alkaline minerals, it neutralized odor and killed bacteria, much like modern soap or lime powder. After use, waste pits or emergency containers were covered with a thin layer of warm ash, sealing off smell and halting decay. Even during storms, a handful of ash meant safety and sanitation. Ice played its own quiet role. Frozen layers acted as natural barriers against contamination. When snow or ice was compacted over waste, it froze solid within minutes, trapping everything in place until spring thaw. It wasn't primitive. It was strategic refrigeration, one that ensured no water source or food supply was ever compromised. Then came the earth, the oldest purifier of all. Dry soil, sand, or clay-like dirt was used to cap outdoor latrines, absorb moisture, and keep pests away. In combination with ash and cold, it completed a cycle of natural cleanliness that left no trace behind. No chemicals, no plumbing, just pure understanding of nature's chemistry. It's a reminder that what we call primitive was, in truth, sophisticated ecological design. These materials didn't just mask the problem, they solved it in harmony with the world around them. Survival in winter wasn't just about tools, it was about teamwork. In Native American camps, hygiene and sanitation weren't private chores. They were communal responsibilities built on trust, respect, and shared survival. Everyone, from elders to youth, understood their role in keeping the camp safe and clean. Each winter camp was organized with precision. Teepees formed a circle, with the central fire symbolizing unity and life. Around this heart of warmth, every family managed its space with discipline, keeping waste away, storing fuel properly, and maintaining airflow through smoke flaps. Outside the living ring, communal sanitation zones were marked and maintained collectively. Snow trenches, latrine spots, and refuse pits were rotated regularly so that no single area became overused or unsanitary. Tasks were shared. Younger members often carried ash and snow to neutralize waste pits, while elders taught when and where to move them as the season shifted. Nothing was left to chance. Even the wind was discussed, ensuring everyone knew which direction was safe for disposal and which was not. This sense of responsibility extended beyond hygiene. It was a moral code, one rooted in the belief that to keep the camp clean was to honor life itself. Illness wasn't seen as random. It was imbalance, a sign that harmony with nature or community had been broken. Because of this shared vigilance, outbreaks were rare. Camps remained healthy through months of snow and isolation, proving that cooperation could achieve what no single person's effort could. Their system wasn't just survival, it was civilization in its purest form. When winter froze the ground and every step outdoors became a battle, the right tools could mean the difference between safety and misery. Native Americans, ever the masters of adaptation, created simple yet ingenious implements that turned outdoor sanitation into a controlled, efficient process, even in the heart of winter. Instead of relying on fixed outhouses, they used portable containers made from bark, clay, or animal hide. Some were lined with grass, moss, or snow to prevent sticking in sub-zero temperatures. These makeshift night pots allowed people to stay inside during storms, later emptying them when the weather cleared. Nothing was wasted or random. Each material was chosen for its natural properties: bark for insulation, clay for odor control, and hides for flexibility and easy cleaning. For women, soft hide funnels or cloths were used for privacy and cleanliness, while men used wooden ladles or hollowed horn bowls, lightweight and durable enough to handle the cold. These small tools represented innovation born from necessity, crafted entirely from available materials without metal, plastic, or modern conveniences. They also built snow latrines, shallow pits packed with snow and lined with dried grass or ash. The snow absorbed moisture while freezing waste instantly, allowing for clean and odorless disposal later. Even cleaning methods showed brilliance. Snow was the universal cleanser, cold, sterile, and abundant. Combined with ashes or dry leaves, it left no residue and required no stored water, a precious resource in deep winter. Every item in their sanitation toolkit served multiple purposes: lightweight, recyclable, and sustainable. These were not primitive stopgaps. They were examples of how deep knowledge of natural materials replaced modern technology with elegant simplicity. Behind every Native American survival method was a guiding truth: the earth gives only if you respect her. Even the act of using the bathroom, something modern people rarely think twice about, was governed by that same principle of reciprocity. Sanitation wasn't just about disposal. It was about returning to the land without harm. Unlike modern waste systems that pollute rivers and soil, Native Americans built theirs on sustainability. Waste was never left exposed, never near water sources, and never abandoned. It was always managed, buried, or burned in ways that nourished or at least protected the earth. When ash was scattered, it wasn't merely for cleanliness. It was symbolic, restoring balance between what was taken and what was given back. Even temporary latrines were dug with purpose. The spot was chosen where sunlight would hit directly during the day, helping sterilize through natural warmth. When a tribe moved camp, those areas were covered, flattened, and often blessed or marked to signify closure and gratitude. The idea was simple: no trace left behind. This mindset created not only cleaner camps, but a culture of environmental discipline that lasted centuries. Where modern survivalists rely on gear and chemicals, the native peoples relied on respect, observation, and restraint. They didn't dominate the wilderness. They collaborated with it. That's why their systems were sustainable for generations without collapse. They didn't invent technology to solve problems. They shaped habits that prevented them in the first place. Their wisdom remains a mirror to our modern excess, reminding us that true survival isn't about how much you use, but how little you harm. The wisdom of Native Americans holds a message that feels more urgent today than ever. Survival is not about gear, but understanding. Modern preppers stockpile filters, chemicals, and gadgets, yet still overlook the simplest truth. Nature already provides everything needed to live clean, safe, and sustainable. Their winter bathroom systems were not primitive solutions. They were blueprints for ecological survival. With nothing but ash, snow, earth, and discipline, entire communities maintained hygiene that rivaled modern standards. There were no chemicals, no waste buildup, and no contamination. They managed what we call sanitation through knowledge, patience, and respect for natural balance. Today, these lessons echo in every off-grid cabin, every winter survival guide, and every sustainable homestead. The same rules apply. Position wisely. Separate waste from water. Use the elements to your advantage. And never let convenience replace awareness. Because when systems fail, and they can, it's not technology that saves you. It's wisdom. Their methods also remind us of humility. They didn't try to outsmart the wilderness. They listened to it. They watched how wind carried odor, how snow cleansed, how earth concealed, and built habits around those patterns. That's the true art of survival. Knowing the world well enough to live without fighting it. So next time you step into the wild, remember, you're not entering an empty land. You're walking in the footsteps of people who mastered it through respect, not resistance. As the snow settles and the fire fades, one truth remains. The wisdom of those who came before us still breathes in the wind. Every survival trick, every careful habit, every act of respect for the land was part of a larger lesson. That true strength lies in harmony, not control. What we've uncovered today isn't just about bathroom systems or winter sanitation. It's about a worldview that refused to waste, destroy, or forget. Native American survival wasn't about outlasting the elements. It was about understanding them. Every handful of ash, every trench dug, every choice of where to stand against the wind was a form of conversation with the earth. A promise to live as part of her, not above her. Modern society calls this sustainability. They simply called it life. So, if this story stirred something in you, if it reminded you that survival isn't found in modern tools, but in ancient respect, then stay with us. Because every day, we bring back more than history. We bring back knowledge. Lessons of balance, resilience, and creativity from those who shaped the land long before machines ever touched it. Subscribe now and become part of this rediscovery, not of lost relics, but of living wisdom. Every story we tell is a spark from the old fires that once kept the people of the plains warm, clean, and alive. Tomorrow, we'll open another chapter, another glimpse into how Native Americans turned simplicity into genius and nature into their greatest teacher.